The Way Back is a story about a group of men who escape a Russian gulag in 1940 and must walk 4,000 miles through Siberia into India and freedom. Hello, I'm Ed Henriques, the film's makeup department head. Our challenge was to establish with makeup and hair that world and to show what these characters went through, the ravages of their journey. We used makeup to contrast these fresh and bearded new arrivals with pale, overworked, undernourished, established prisoners. Many of the principals had grown their own beards for this opening scene. However, Jim Sturgis wears an artificial beard because he worked clean-shaven the day before. An early design decision was made to keep the actor's own hair if possible. Then we would need fewer wigs in the longer sections of the script. Here, Jim Sturgis and Gustav Skarsgård wear ball caps. We did this in a few scenes to establish that they are shaved under their hats. In the weeks before shooting, background prisoners and guards were given haircuts, scars, tattoos, and layers of dirt were tested. Here's an example of this work. We watch as prisoners listen to a story about pirates covered in scars and tattoos. Actually, Russian criminal prisoners were covered in tattoos. They used them as an insider's language. These prisoners were usually the healthiest, and in many ways they ran the prison from the inside. Political prisoners, on the other hand, suffered from malnutrition and its diseases, and many developed sores, even frostbite, from the cold work they did in the mines. We used silver tooth caps to simulate stainless steel that we learned was most often used at this time in Russian prisons. Although the plan was to cover heads with hats, the hats often didn't cover enough of the actor's hair, so ball caps and sideburn covers were still needed. Established prisoners that had been in the prison for a while, like Ed Harris, who played Mr. Smith, were given buzz haircuts and fitted for wigs and beards because we would need longer hair in the future. For the blizzard scenes, we added makeup frost to faces with ultra ice gel, ground gelatin ice powder, and ruddy red makeup on noses, cheeks, and ears. This added to the feel of cold while shooting interior sets such as this one. Actual snowy exterior sets in the cold helped our makeups even more. The season has changed. This was our first transition, a time jump. Makeup and hair used to show 6 or 8 weeks of time lapse. Some men are foraging for food, some are sick, all are starving. Man turning into beast. I chose this sequence to show the beard and wig work used. Ed Harris as Smith and Colin Farrell as Valka wear full hand-tied lace wigs, while the others have hair extensions to enhance their own growth. The men were all clean-shaven from scenes before and wore hand-tied lace artificial beards, with the edges overlaid using loose hairs. Eating bugs, messy berries, and bloody bones required constant maintenance of mustaches and hair around the mouth.
What does he want?
I don't know, it's a girl. She's Polish.
The addition of a young girl into the group prompted us to lose the wigs and beards in order to look more presentable. Using primitive tools, they began to barber each other, and this continued throughout the rest of the journey. Here, Valka gets shaved. An interesting note is that the period tattoos chosen by the actor had to be applied over the actor's modern real tattoos. They were covered earlier with an airbrush.
Now still. Very still. Please. Head up. More.
Mosquitoes. Insects were another hardship of the journey. We used sculpted bumps in a multitude of sizes, colored to look painful. Here, Zoran is particularly loved by the insects. His eyes made to look swollen almost shut, using silicone eyelid appliances. Into the desert, our next major transition. As their water runs out, the effects of the heat and the sun grow. Lips begin to crack, hot sunburned areas appear, and soon peeling skin begins on the most often burned high points of the face. We used sun tanners over washes of alcohol-based makeup for this sun-reddened skin. As days passed and water is exhausted, We progressively added peeling, ulcerated appliances on noses, cheeks, and lips. The makeup had to hold up in harsh conditions because actors were often far away being shot close with long lenses, or, as in this well scene, they were pouring water over themselves.
Stay here at least a few more days.
This night scene at the well shows the makeup beautifully in this light. The camera lingers on their burnt faces. Interestingly, it's the same makeup as in the earlier well scene, just shot later that evening.
It was a miracle finding this. Can we count on another?
The progression continues as the group pushes on past the well, the deepest part of the desert. The weakest again falls. After her face first fall, the sand was even in her mouth. We decided to keep it there and continued the match. The swollen legs are actually silicone slip-on full lower leg appliances produced by WM Creations. Here we see the layers of sunburn, broken, peeled skin, and the buildup of dust and dirt from the lack of water. Saoirse Ronan, the actress playing Irina, had very sensitive skin. She was allergic to the Prozaid glue, so we had to sculpt on her face using Telesis glue as the edge to the wounds. We also had to be very careful to keep our actors constantly covered with sunscreen so they didn't actually burn in the Moroccan sun. The makeup and the play of light is very interesting on her face as Irina is unwrapped. When I watch this scene, I feel so proud of our team and the cast that we tormented so long with glue, dirt, and teeth paint. It's not very often that makeup and hair get to help this much in telling the story. Using our appliances on predetermined areas of the face and lips gave us a thread for continuity throughout the progression, unique to each character. Their faces seemed to become a landscape, a map of their ordeal. Once more, the weakest falls behind. They continue on till Thomas collapses. At this time, the director asked us for a little more. We completely removed the red sunburned makeup and changed his base to a death pallor with sunken features for this eerie moonlit death scene. The characters are now at the end of their endurance. We, as makeup artists, also felt that we were at the furthest edge of our makeup palette. As the men slurped mud, we realized they really would not have enough water to clean much of it off, so we matched the muddy faces as well. Finding fresh water at a stream would be a relief for us all.
It's like chicken. Yeah. A big black poisonous chicken with no legs.
Here's a section of the film we shot out of sequence. The Himalayan mountains and the hut were shot before we went to the desert. We had to establish the worn faces and scars of the facial burns that we would later work into. Also in this scene are makeups, wigs, and beards used to create authentic period Tibetan characters. Notice the silicone earlobe appliances necessary to display the heavy earrings. The film doesn't actually show the final climb through the frozen passes of the Himalayas, but the director asked us to help show that in their emaciated faces. He felt they should, at first sight, almost frighten the children, looking like strange creatures approaching through the green tea fields. We added silicone eye socket appliances with highlight and shadow makeup to hollow out their bone structure, and hair and beard extensions added to complete the final look. They emerge into freedom, a product of their journey, human and nature.